my name is Mira and I'm the maker behind Miras Knits on Instagram, and this will be my very first knitting podcast here on YouTube. I'm 21 years old and I live in the north of Germany, and since English is not my first language, I hope it's understandable for you and good enough, but I'm sure that my English will keep on getting better in the course of the next podcast here. Yes, I want to keep my knitting podcasts in English so that I have somewhere where I can speak once in a while English, so just keep my English so that I don't forget words. Since I finished my school 3 years ago and now I go to university, but there I don't have to speak English because I have no subjects that are related to national relations or just to English. I will always also have to record this podcast in 20 minutes sequences because I have a really old camera and my camera overheats after around 20 minutes, or I think it's 25 minutes, I don't know for sure. So I hope this will be okay for you, but I will of course not always sit in the same spot, so you will see it. Yes, but I hope it's okay. Maybe I will record the rest of the video more tomorrow, because right now it's around 5 o'clock in the evening or 5 p.m. here in Germany, and it already gets dark outside, or it's not that the sun is going down, but the lighting condition will get bad in the course of this video, because today is not the best weather and it's really dark outside. Yes, so because I have to wait for my camera to cool down, I think it takes like a half an hour. So these knitting podcasts will take me a long time to record. I also try to record the podcast on my phone, so this is my 4th time trying to record this podcast. My first time there was, I don't know, I did some mistake, but yes, my video was pretty bright and it looked kind of, I don't know, good or wrong. So I decided to record it again, and then my camera started the overheating thing. And yes, it looked really bad, and I was just I took a shower before the video and my hair looked kind of greasy. So, and then I tried to record the podcast again today with my phone, but I don't know why my phone always just records 1 minute. I already deleted a lot of videos and pictures on it, but I don't know what the problem is. So I'm gonna record my podcast with this camera, and I hope that maybe when I have saved up some money, I will buy a new one so that it doesn't take me so long to record these knitting podcasts. But this doesn't have to be your problem, it's just my problem, and I just wanted to say it so that you are not wondering why I maybe wear something different, or stuff like that, why I keep switching my positions in the video. Yes, so first in this podcast I want to talk a little bit about where I learned knitting, or how my mom taught me and when I started knitting, and just kind of my process with knitting, and then I will talk about how I want to structure my knitting podcasts. Yes, so my mom taught me my knitting skills, or not all of my skills, just my basic skills. She taught me the cast on and the cast off, and just increases and decreases, and she showed me how to fix mistakes while knitting, so when you slipped a stitch, and how to fix it. Yes, she taught me when I was little child. Maybe when I was a toddler, I think she started teaching me knitting with fingers and then with Strickliese, it's called in German. I don't know what's it called in English. It's like a figure where the hair is are metal hooks, and you always slip the yarn above the hooks, and then you create an I-cord. It is, I think. And yes, I did things with this a lot. I made carpets out of really small carpets for my dollhouse and things like that. And yeah, I knitted some things for my dolls. And then I started crocheting a bit. And yes, and then I kind of got into knitting again in the beginning of this year. But yes, I was just knitting on and off. I paused for a week or maybe a month, and then I started knitting again. And since maybe the last month, I'm knitting every day as much as I can, and I have time to do so. Yes, but I teach myself all the other knitting skills I learned with just different patterns or YouTube videos. I was always kind of a person, I never really read, not instructions, but yeah, you know, with knitting patterns there's always the difficulty, and I never really knew that or looked at it. So I just bought patterns or cardigans most of the time that I found pretty, and I tried it. Actually, my very first knitting project was a lace cardigan, but yes, it took me a really long time to finish it because of course it's kind of hard to do with your first knitting project, and at that time I only knew how to knit and purl a stitch and just do the basic cast-ons, cast-offs. So I had to watch a lot of YouTube videos. But yeah, you will see, yeah, I'm not that kind of person that's afraid of knitting patterns or patterns that look hard or patterns with a lot of stitches. I always find joy with trying it. Of course, it takes me a long time or a longer time since my skill level isn't just not there yet with some stitches. But yeah, I really like yes, just knitting these patterns or just learn new stuff, and that's where I get my joy while knitting from. Yes, I teach myself knitting or the most of the knitting, so I learned just the basic techniques from my mom, but I'm still really thankful for her teaching me knitting, and I just want to share here my passion about knitting. If no one of you watches this, I'm not sad or anything. I just want it for myself so that I can look back, and for my family so they can see what I'm up to. And yes, I just want to talk here on my YouTube channel about different things. My next video will be about the summer patterns I want to knit. I will talk about it in the end of the video. And now I want to talk about how I want to structure my knitting podcasts here on YouTube. First, I want to talk about what I'm wearing. Maybe shortly I will talk about the construction, but I won't talk a lot about the construction of the different garments I knit or I'm knitting on, just because most of the patterns I knit are paid for patterns, and I don't want you, of course, so I don't want to give away too much so that some can knit it just for my sayings, and of course that's not the purpose behind a paid for pattern. You have to pay for for the pattern, so you know how many stitches or what techniques or how you knit the garment. And yes, I don't want to talk about it that much, so I don't give away anything from the patterns. Yes, and after that I want to talk about my works in progress, or things I knit on right now. In this part I will just include projects that I'm still kind of knit on. I have some projects that are unfinished and are just in my cabinets, and I don't know if I ever really pick them up again. We'll see. I kind of thinking about doing a video where I will try to knit on these projects and finish them. So I think that I will record over the course of 1 month my unfinished objects, or try to finish them, and then I will do a video where I'll finish my unfinished projects and things like that. Yes, but of course I don't want to, maybe when I kind of lose my joy from knitting this pattern, or yes, to want to knit on these garments every day. So I will do like a separate video where I will try to finish these garments, and then I will upload it, and there maybe I talk about why I lost my joy, or what were my problems, or why, yes, I started something new and kind of forgot about these garments. But yes, and after that I want to do like a challenge part in my knitting podcasts. In this part I want to give myself a challenge. My challenge for the course of the next year will be the 52 weeks of sock knitting. I will talk about it in the next part, but yeah, I want to give myself challenges, and like just finishing patterns in a time frame, or to finish some unfinished garments maybe, and just things like that. Yes, of course, if you like the challenges, we can do them together. I don't know if anyone will ever watch this video, but if you like the challenges, we can of course do like a group chat or things like that, or just talk about it in the comments, or you can DM me if you have questions, and we can knit together on these challenges. Yeah, after my challenges, I want to talk about my acquisitions. In this video there will be quite a lot acquisitions, at least for me, since I'm not working right now, or I don't have a job right now. Of course I don't earn money, and since I'm still studying and going to university, I don't have this much money, and I don't think that there will be an acquisitions part in every video. Maybe there will be, I don't know, but we'll see. But I don't think that in my videos there are gonna be a lot of acquisitions. I'm kind of the person that saves up a lot of money, and then I buy yarn, or I buy a lot of yarn, and I'll just do these things like 2 times a year or 3 times a year. So this is not gonna be this exciting or interesting for you, but maybe I will change it up a bit so that I have something to show in every video, but we'll see how it goes. Yes, and after my acquisitions, like I talked about earlier, I want to talk about things that I will want to knit on in the future, or patterns I think are really pretty, or yes, just my plans for the future knitting. So yes, this is gonna be my structure, or the structure I want to try with my videos. If it's not working or anything, I will change it up. I don't want to make these podcasts like just a hard thing. I'm just gonna talk about my knitting, and yes, about just my hobby and things like that. So it's not gonna be a serious thing here. I'm just gonna talk about knitting when I have time. So I don't know when, in what time frame I will upload my videos. Maybe there are gonna be a video every week, or just 1 a month. I don't know, we'll see about that. But yes, so I'm gonna start with what I'm wearing right now. I'm wearing the Edgar Cardigan by Petite Knit. It's I knitted this in I don't know why it's not focusing. I have this problem with this camera, so I don't think that I will focus. I knitted this in Baby Alpaca by Hansa Farm. It's in the color Bordeaux Heather. It's Weinrot Heather, but it's like a dark red Bordeaux. And it's in a DK weight. When I started knitting or knitting more patterns, I didn't quite knew why you do gauge swatches. I was always like, wool is so expensive, why would I knit something that I don't have a use for or a purpose for? So I would always just buy yarn and then started knitting the pattern. And at first I was always like, hey, why is it too big or too small, or just looks wrong? And yes, later on I knew why you would do gauge swatches, but yes, since like a couple of days ago I never did gauge swatches. I would just knit a bigger size or smaller size depending on what weight of yarn I wanted to use. But I knitted this in the DK weight, and with Alpaca I think that you don't have to use a mohair to go with the yarn, because the Alpaca already has a lot of fluff, so it's more it's cheaper, of course, and for me that's quite important. So I knit a lot in Alpaca just because I don't have a used strand of mohair to get the same effect. Of course, if you knit with mohair, sometimes it has more fluff, but for me this is enough. And Alpaca is really soft, or at least I think it's really soft, and it's really soft on my skin, especially this yarn. So yes, it's from Hansa Farm. But one thing I don't like about this yarn is that you have to order the yarn in a pack of 6 skeins. And of course you don't always need 6 skeins, or maybe you just need 7 or 8. And then you have to buy 12 skeins of yarn, and you always have left over. So I already have some in my stash and I don't really have a purpose for it, just because it's not enough to knit a garment. I could knit a top with it, but I don't need a summer top in Alpaca, it's just warm. So yes, that's kind of, I don't know why it's like that, but that's one thing I don't like about this yarn. But just because you buy in bulk in the 6, or you always have to buy 6, it's a bit cheaper than other Alpaca yarn. So I did like a big purchase on them. You will see I knitted a lot with the Hansa Farm Alpaca yarn, but now I'm more into other brands. But you always have to try new brands, or just have to try the yarn. So yes, and it's the Edgar Cardigan. It's more of a summer cardigan, but I just wanted to knit it in winter yarn, I would say. And yes, I hope you can see it when I stand up. It's a cropped version. It has like a big rib on the bottom and on the sleeves. I did it shorter on the sleeve. I think normally it's this large, but yes, it's a cropped cardigan. And I put on just some it's coconut, what's it called, coconut knöpfe. I don't know what's called in English right now. Maybe I google it later. But yes, I bought these in a big pack of I don't know, 50 or something like that, and it was really cheap. I bought it on Amazon like a couple of years ago, and I still have a lot of them. Buttons. I still have a lot of the buttons, and I don't think I will use them, or I would really use them, just because I don't think they're pretty anymore. But yes, I still have them. Maybe I will use them in the future. We'll see. But yes, this is a top-down construction, top-down wrangling construction. I will take it off just because it's really hot today, and I want to talk a bit about the shoulders construction, because I think this one has my favorite construction ever. I just like that most of the time you just have just 1 or 2 stitches that do the wrangling construction, and here you have more I don't know, yeah, you can see it. It's like a big band and then it just goes into one, but I don't know, I really like the look of the bigger part. And yes, I think that I will knit an April cardigan in the future, but I want to knit it in a summer yarn. I would really love to knit it in the cotton merino by Knitting for Olive or just the pure silk, but I haven't tried this yarn yet, but I think it would be really pretty. But I really want a shorter cardigan for summer, so I can wear it with dress or just in the summer. But yes, that's what I'm wearing right now. And now we are going to talk about my finished objects I finished in the course of the last week, but I will take a sip and then we're going to talk about it. Yes, so one of my recently finished objects is this camisole number 2. It's by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and it's also a really famous pattern, I would say. I think a lot of you already knit it, and right now it's quite popular on Instagram, and yeah, it kind of always has been. Yes, it's a ribbed camisole or top. It's 3x3 rib, and yeah, you knit it from the bottom up. Yes, I'm kind of, I don't know, sometimes I like knitting from the bottom up, but sometimes I don't. I like knitting from bottom up if I have sleeves or have to knit sleeve, just because I think it looks neater. Yes, because you only have to do decreases, and I like to do decreases. I hate to do increases. I don't know why. I kind of feel like I'm breaking my fingers all the time. Well, when I do increases, I don't know, and there are always like a little holes when you do increases. I don't know. I really like a clean look with my knitting, so I like more doing decreases, but of course, since I like doing top-down constructions more, I always have to do increases, and maybe I find a better way to do them so they look neater, or maybe you have suggestions for me for that. But yes, it's like I said, bottom-up construction, and yeah, here you also do the decreases here for the part, for the top part, and it looks really nice. Yes, I did one alternation, maybe you already saw it. I knitted the straps in double knitting. I have used 10 stitches, so 4 in the front and 5 in the front and 5 in the back, just because I have quite big boobs and I have to wear a bra, and so that my bra straps are not showing as much, I knitted the straps in double knitting, and I'm really proud or really happy that I did this. In the original pattern it's just I-cords, but yeah, for me it just looks I don't know, silly when I have like my big bra straps and just a tiny I-cord, so I did it like that. Yes, I knitted this camisole in the rainbow cotton by Hobbii. A couple of months ago I did like a huge purchase on Hobbii, and I ordered a lot of summer yarns and a lot of their cotton, just because it was it's cheap, and yes, and with Hobbii, when you buy 10 skeins of a yarn, you always save a lot of money, and since I don't have that much money and I wanted to knit a lot of summer garments, I bought quite a lot skeins of these yarn. Yes, but now I have a lot of these skeins left because I hate knitting with cotton. I don't know, it's just so dry on my fingers, and after a couple of hours it hurts my fingers, and it just, grows a lot with time, and I don't know, cotton is not the best for knitting, or at least I think it's not the best for knitting. It's just, I don't know, it's just not pretty, or I don't think it's pretty. And then the color, I don't really like the color. Here it's quite nice, but it's more like a gray green with dark green, and it just looks kind of dirty. But yes, of course I will still wear this top, or I've worn it a lot already since we have the heat wave here in Germany. But yes, maybe some of you can relate. I don't know. Knitting with cotton, sometimes it works out, and the garments don't grow as much, but a lot of the time they just grow. This is, I think, a medium, and I will tell you, probably in after the summer, or in a couple of months, will be like an extra large. I don't know. It just, cotton just, it's not pretty. And with wool, you can always just wash it quite a bit too hot, and it will shrink again. But with cotton, if you wash it, it will just stretch out more. So you have to be really careful. And with cotton, I always lay it to dry. I do it with all of my knits, just because I would just lay them on the balcony, and it takes just a day, or at least in the summer, it just takes a day to dry. And I also wash my knits in the washing machine. The first couple of times I do hand washing, but because some of the yarn, since I knit with a lot of reds, and with red yarns, I find that they always bleed a lot, so I never knit the red yarns with other yarns. Or yeah, if I do color work, most of the time I don't use red yarns with light yarns, but with dark yarns. Yeah, because red bleeds with a lot of or bleeds, and if I do color work with lighter colors, of course it gets pink or something like that when you use white. So I try to go around using red or dark colors with lighter yarn, because they often bleed. Most of the time it's when you use more cheap yarn or not pre-washed yarn. But yes, because I tend to use a lot of cheaper yarns, you always have to be really careful with color bleeding. So yes, that was it with my finished objects, and now we are gonna talk about my current knits in progress. First, I want to talk about a test knit I'm doing right now, and with this yarn, I don't know, I kind of have a love-hate relationship, or with the color, not with the yarn, but a bit with the yarn. So yes, for this cardigan I used Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair and heavy merino. And when I ordered the yarn online, I had to order it from the Knitting for Olive website, because here in Germany it's not hard for me to get the different yarns. I also can get the sadness garn and ficolana and yarns like that. But with this color, I wanted to knit in the pomegranate, yes, pomegranate colorway. I always missed one skein, or yeah, something like that, so I ordered it on the original Knitting for Olive site. But yes, on the internet, or at least on the website from Knitting for Olive, it's more of a bright red. And in real life, when I opened the package, I was kind of disappointed, to be honest, or at least in the beginning, because it's more of a orange. Maybe you can see it with the mohair in. So yes, right now you can see it pretty good. So as you can see, it's more of an orange, and when you look on the website, it's more of a bright red. I remember that, I don't know her name, but the Creya Bayer knitting podcast, she bought this yarn. I think one in her last, I don't know if it's her last podcast, but I think in the podcast before she bought it, and she saw it in real life. It's a pretty color, that's not the problem, but that's of course that's a problem when you buy yarn online, but when you have something in mind or color in mind and then you get the yarn and it's completely different, it's, I don't know, it's kind of heartbreaking at first, and you have to warm up to the color. But now I think it's pretty, and it is a pretty color. It's more of an, I would say, burnt orange. Yes, I think it's pretty good. It's more orange than red, as you can see. And yes, of course, when you buy yarn online, it often is not the same color. It's the same with the bamboo yarn I ordered from Hobbii. On the website it's more light, and in real life it's really dark. But where I live, we have a lot of sewing shops where you buy the fabric, but we don't have a lot of wool shops or yarn shops. I don't think there even is one yarn shop, or at least it's not the yarn shop that carries the yarn I want to use. But yes, and then to the yarn, the soft silk mohair is really soft, and I really like knitting with it. It's the first time for me knitting with a mohair or a strand of mohair. Of course, it probably wasn't the best idea to start knitting with mohair, with using a really nice mohair. Yes, because it's quite expensive, and I think now it would be hard for me to use a cheaper mohair, or like the Hobbii mohair or the drops mohair. I don't know if I want to try it, just because I still have a lot of the alpaca yarn in my stash and I want to use it first. So if I don't do a test knit in the next, yes, if I don't do a test knit, I probably won't use mohair in the near future. But yes, and then knitting with two strands, of course, you always have to keep track that you don't lose one of the yarns. It's because I knit really fast, and with when it's just stockinette, yes, I tend to lose one strand a lot, so I have to tell myself to be more slowly and careful, and then it's okay. But one thing why I don't quite like, at least the heavy merino, I never tried the normal merino, I think it's quite dry to knit with. It kind of feels like cotton. I don't know if it's just me and I'm just sensitive, but when you knit it with a mohair, it's okay, but it's just, and now it just feels really dry. I did a swatch. When I did the swatch, I was like, wow, that's quite expensive yarn, and it was always, it was my first time knitting with the Knitting for Olive yarn, and it's quite popular on the internet. So at first I was kind of like, I don't know, disappointed, I guess, because it was just so dry to knit with. I don't know, maybe I just thought it would be different. Maybe that's just how it feels. But yes, when I washed the swatch, it was really soft. So I don't know why it's that dry to knit with first. I guess it has to bloom a bit with washing, but after washing it's really soft. So I'm looking forward to block this cardigan so it gets softer, but because right now it's kind of yeah, dry and kind of itchy. So yes, back to the pattern. This is the test knit for Colibri by Johanna. She's a German pattern designer, but her patterns are also in other languages. And yes, that's the Edgar cardigan. Yes, I'm on my sleeves right now. I started the first sleeve. Yes, and the signature from the Edgar line from her is the twisted rib details. As you can see, the raglan is in twisted rib. I don't know if you can see it. I guess you can. And then on the sides you have the twisted rib details. and on the sleeves there are also some twisted ribbed details. Yes, at first when she came out with the Edgar sweater first, and it was, I don't know, I think a few months ago. I don't know when, but yeah, I saw the pattern on Instagram, or the sweater on Instagram, and I fell in love with the design. But I don't like knitting sweaters, or I don't knit sweaters. I guess I can say I never knitted a sweater. I don't know, I don't like sweaters. I don't wear them a lot just because I get hot quite easily. So I just like to take things off, or easy off, and with a knit sweater, I don't like wearing something underneath just because it's so warm. So you can't take them off, I guess. So I just knit cardigans and tops. Maybe in the future I will knit sweaters, I don't know. It's not that I hate them, I really want to try knitting a sweater, but right now I just have so many cardigan patterns I want to knit that I don't know, I don't knit a sweater in the near future, I think. I just want to finish my cardigans or just knit another cardigan. So I think it would take me some time, but maybe that's a part for the challenge part. Maybe I can challenge myself. I think that's a good idea. Maybe I challenge myself to knit a sweater. Not for this part video, because I already have a challenge, but maybe in the next podcast I would do the challenge to knit a sweater. Or maybe, I guess, I can just do it in this podcast. I don't want to finish the challenges in time for the next podcast. Sometimes it's just a challenge for a year or a couple of months. So I guess maybe I think about it in the course of the video. But I think it's a good idea. My needle just got stuck. Oh no. Oh no, you can't see it anymore. My needle just ripped out one stitch a bit. So yes, of course it's a cardigan, so it's knitted flat. And one thing I really like about this cardigan, I will talk about button bands a bit later with my next project. But what I like with this cardigan, you knit the button band as you knit the body part, I guess you can say. So it's of course when you knitted the sleeves, you're done. Of course you have to weave in the ends and block the cardigan, but then you're done. So yes, and I really like the twisted ribbed details. Here you can see it's all over the cardigan. So I'm really excited when I finish this cardigan. In the next video it will be finished, I'm pretty sure. And it just goes by really fast because this is knit on 6mm needles, and I usually knit with 3mm. I love knitting with 3mm or 3.5mm. Of course it takes longer, but I think it just looks nicer when the stitches are smaller. It's not that I don't think the cardigan looks nice. I'm just more of a smaller needle knitter. I guess everyone has their favorite needle size, and for me it's just 3 or 3.5, maybe 4, but I never really knitted something above it. Yes, so that's one of the things I knit right now. And I would talk about the yarn in my acquisitions part because I bought it for this test set. So yes. So my next project that's on my needles is again a cardigan. Right now I have quite a few cardigans just because when the heat wave hit here in Europe, or where I live, I couldn't get myself to work with the yarns. It's just too hot. I just started knitting swatches for summer garments or the top. And I have another camisole, it's the camisole number 4, I think it's with the broken rib. Is it broken rib? I think it's broken rib. So, but this will be part of my get those I don't know, UFOs finished. I don't know how I will name the video, but something like that, because I started I think I finished the top in like 2 days. I just need to knit the straps. I don't know, with me I always kind of stop knitting on garments when they're quite finished. It's the same with this. Of course, I have one sleeve left, but with me, I always knit the body in like a day or 2 days. I don't know, I told you I'm quite a fast knitter, and often cardigans have a stockinette body, so it goes by quite fast. And yes, I don't know, the body I knit fast, and then knitting sleeves, I just hate knitting sleeves. Maybe it's not hate, that's a too strong word, but it just takes me forever. I think it's boring for me. Maybe it's boring. I don't really get why. I know that knitting sleeves goes by so fast, a lot faster than knitting the body, but I don't know. I'm on Sleeve Island forever. Help, please help me. Maybe you have an idea how I can change it. It's just, oh, wait a minute. It's just, I'm on Sleeve Island forever. It's the same with this cardigan. I started this cardigan in my holiday in Denmark, and now I think it's like half a year ago, and I was done with the body in 3 days, I think, or 4 days. And then I started knitting the sleeves on the car ride back, but yes, that's why I finished. And I with the ribbing here, I think I only have like 5 rows or 6 rows left, and then I'm done. But yes, and then the next thing that takes me forever, I have a lot of cardigans that are finished, body and sleeves. And then I just have to do bottom band. Maybe I should do a video where I just do the weaving in ends, blocking, doing the bottom bands, just get the buttons on. I also have a lot of cardigans that have a bottom band and are finished, but have no buttons on them. I have quite a lot buttons, but I just hate sewing them on. I don't know. It's just, it takes me forever because I want that they match up perfectly. Maybe you have a faster idea or suggestion for me to sew on the buttons. But yes, as I said, it takes me forever to knit bottom bands, and often bottom bands go all the way around. You also have them in the neck, and a lot of cardigans or patterns I knit have double knit bottom bands, and it takes forever. And as I said, I knit a lot of cardigans in like 3mm or 3.5mm, and then the bottom band takes forever. So with the champagne cardigan, it's also double knit, but yes. And now we're going to talk about the yarn. For the champagne cardigan, I wanted it to be quite light and not so thick. So I used 2 lace weight yarns and needle size 5. No. On the body I used 4, and on the sleeves I used the needle size 5mm, not needle size 5, it's 5mm and 4mm. I just use a larger needle size on my sleeves because my gauge when knitting in the round is tighter than my gauge when I just knit flat. So I often go up a needle size or half a needle size on my sleeves. So about the yarn, I used the brushed alpaca by Hansa Farm again. I will link it down below. It's in the dark gray. And then I used the baby alpaca by BC Garns. Is it Garns or Yarns? I think Garns. And it's also in the dark gray. Yeah, and it's quite light. When I'm finished, I will weight it for you, so we can see how heavy it is. But yes, it feels wonderful, and because of the brushed alpaca has more fluff than normal mohair, so it's quite fluffy. I don't know if you can see. I guess you can. Probably you can see it. So yes, it's really, really soft. It's really, really light. So we'll see when I'm finishing my second sleeve and the button band, and then I have to sew on the buttons. But as I said, maybe I do a video where I take all my cardigans that are mostly finished and just do the little steps. We'll see. And the last project, here we are again with the button bands, is my Jenny jacket. Yes, as I said, I'm not afraid of trying patterns with difficult stitch patterns. It just takes me a lot longer. When I'm stuck, I just try to find YouTube videos. Sorry. Or I ask someone who could know it, or yes, you can. There's a way. If you just have to look. Often I just use YouTube videos, or this is also from Petite Knit. She has some videos. They are mostly in Danish. I think she translated most of them, or some of them, in English. But at that time they were still in Danish. But yes, it's with the smoked stitch. It's really pretty. I fell in love with this pattern. I think I'm gonna knit it again in like a dark grey. As you can see, I like white, reds and dark greys. But yes, I saw a picture on Instagram in a dark grey and it was so pretty. So I think I'm gonna do it again. So I want to finish it fast so I can knit one in dark grey. But we'll see when I come to that. So it's this cardigan, you knit from the bottom up again, but somehow I did a mistake, I guess. You also do the decreases around the sleeves for the raglan construction, and as you can see, maybe, I don't know if you can see it, probably some of you will see it just because we know knitting. And yes, as you can see, here the ribbing is quite long, and on this side it's shorter, and it looks so much better on this side. I don't know what I did wrong, because it's like the same amount of stitches on both of the sides, of course. So I don't know where the mistake is, but yes, I don't think that you can see it, and I also have really long hair, so I just put my hair over it and then no one will see it. But yes, again, with the Jenny jacket, the body and sleeve are finished. I just need to knit the button band. Yes, but of course I will do it someday, but as I said, right now I'm more into knitting summer garments. So I will leave it in the pile for now, and then we'll pick it up probably when it gets colder, so I can wear it outside. I already wore it outside, just without the button bands and all the ends. But I didn't care. I was just proud of that I finished it. Yes, with the smoked stitch, at first it kind of hurted my fingers, but when you get the hang of it, I think it's okay. Yes, I at the end my fingers were okay, or my hands. Yes, and then it looks really difficult, I guess. I know a lot of people are afraid of knitting it, but you don't have to. It's basically just ribbed, and then every 6 stitch you slip in between them, and it's kind of like doing cables. You just slip the stitch, get it round, and then knit the ribbing. So it's not that hard. And then most of the rounds are just double ribbing. It's just every other round you do the in-between thing. But yes, so I think it's a really clever construction, and it's just, I don't know, it's just pretty. I think everyone should knit one Jenny cardigan or the Jenny sweater. it's egal. It's oh God. I think it's just something everyone should have in their wardrobe. But yes, it's I don't know if I said it. It's again from Petite Knit, and I knitted this cardigan in one strand of, again, the baby alpaca from Hansa Farm in the color Nature. It's just a white. They only have one white. And the brushed alpaca in the same color, also from Hansa Farm. I will also link it down below, and I will link the patterns down below if you're interested. But yeah, it's not hard to find. You just have to go on the Petite Knit website, and then you can type it in, and there are the languages the pattern is in. Yes, and the yarn is really, really soft. Again, it's probably also because of the ribbed. I find that ribbed stitching is always quite softer. It's thicker, it's quite thick and heavy, just because it's a lot of yarn. Because the stitch takes up more yarn, of course, that's something you should keep in mind. Maybe you can do the thing I did with the champagne cutting. Maybe I should have switched it. You can just, of course, use a lighter weight. You can just do the 2 lace weights. You just have to get gauge, so you have to go up quite a lot of needle sizes, I guess. But of course, then it's more see-through. So you have to look. Maybe I would. That's a good idea. Maybe I do it with like a summer yarn. That would be pretty. But in my stash, I just have summer yarn for like a top. So I would need to buy yarn. We'll see. But as I said, there will be another Jenny jacket in my life, I'm pretty sure. So now we are going to talk about a challenge I want to give myself. But I have 2. Oh, I have 3. I don't even remember. I know in the beginning of the video I wanted to do another challenge. Was it just the arm? The arm. It's not the arm, sleeve. It's because, you know, I have to, I'm knitting on the sock while I have to wait for my camera to cool down so I can record again. So I think for now, so that I don't get overwhelmed with challenges, I'm just going the 2 I wanted to do. So my biggest challenge, and a challenge that's going to take me, I think, at least a year, maybe longer. Right now I'm in a break, so I don't have uni right now. But I think when I start uni again in 2 months, yes, I don't think I have the time for it. But it's the this is the 52 weeks of soccer. It's in German, but probably some of you know it, or a lot of you. And my challenge to myself is, I bought this book a couple of months ago. I want to knit all the 52 patterns that are in this book in 52 weeks. I don't know if I'm able to do it. We'll see. But I think this will be a fun challenge. I don't know. I bought a lot of money. This book is quite expensive. Of course, if you think about it, here are 52 patterns in this book, so I guess it's not that expensive. Because if you would have bought the pattern separately, it would be more expensive. But yes, so in here are sock patterns, and I want to knit these socks in order. So I'm gonna start in the order they are here down in the book. So I'm going to start with the first socks, and the first socks are in the intersections. Let's find the picture. Yeah, they look like that. And I think I'm going to show you the first 4 socks, because I don't know when I'm doing the next podcast. Of course, if the next podcast is in 4 weeks, I want to have 4 pairs of socks. If I'm doing it next week, I just want to have 1 pair of socks. But I'm gonna show you the 4 pairs, so that you know what socks I want to make. We'll see when I do the next knitting podcast. Yes, and the second sock is the Avena. It looks like that. It's really pretty. Yes, I think it's quite difficult. We'll see. Oh, It has a lot of instructions. The third sock is the Jilly. That's also really pretty. I don't know if I do the end of the sock like in this diagonal shape. Maybe I do like the normal round shape. I don't know. I wanted to do the socks as they are in this book, so we'll see. And then the fourth sock is called Branches and looks like that. So we'll see if I'm able to do this challenge or if I'm able to knit 52 pairs, of course, not just socks, pairs of socks in 52 weeks. We'll see. I think I'm able to do it. I don't quite know if I'm able to do it when I have all my exams, but we'll see, because that's is in another 6 months. So maybe in 6 months I don't even knit these socks anymore. But yes, we'll see. For me, knitting is just relaxing, and I'm not doing these challenges for me to have. I'm just doing it so I can challenge myself, I guess, with new patterns and techniques. And if I'm not able to do it, or if I stop doing this challenge, I'm not gonna be mad about me or anything. It's just, I think it would be fun. Yeah, so if some of you would also want to knit these patterns with me, we can just do maybe a small knit along. I don't even know any one of you will see this video or gonna watch this video this long, so we'll see. But of course, if you're interested, we can just write about it. Of course, you can just only DM me on Instagram, or we can talk about it in the comments. So yes, we'll see. And as I filmed my first try of this podcast on Friday, today's Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, yes, Sunday. I already started, of course, on the first socks. I'm gonna talk about this yarn in the next part, in the acquisitions, and I guess I only have to do the ribbing and then I'm done. It's the first sock. I have quite large feet, as you can see, but yes. So I think for this week I'm going to be I'm gonna be able to finish the pair of socks, or the intersections. We'll see with the Avena socks, because they look quite difficult. So yes, and the second challenge I want to give myself, as I told you, I also crochet. I don't crochet a lot right now. I guess I don't know. I started this blanket like a year ago. That's when I crocheted for a couple of months. I also knitted, but now I'm only knitting. But I will crochet again, because this, at one point I want this to be a bed cover. I have quite a large bed. It's 2 meters long, so yes, it's going to take me forever. But that's it's 2 meters long. It's really, I think maybe it's more than 2 meters. I don't really know. I just cast it on a lot of stitches. But yes, it's this cover, and yes, maybe I wanted at least double the size of this. We'll see. It's in the waffle stitch. I don't know if you call it waffle stitch. It looks like it. I think it's the wrong side. No, it's the right side. That's at least how you call it in German. And yes, so my challenge for me is, in time for the next podcast, I want to finish 4 centimeters on that blanket. I will do a progress keeper, put on a progress keeper where I'm at right now, and then we'll see if I can finish 4 centimeters for every podcast, so that I can finish this blanket one day. But we'll see. Maybe I go down to 2 centimeters just because it's so long, and one row takes forever, just because it's so long. It's over 2 meters, I think. Maybe in time for the next podcast I will look how long it is. But yes, 4 centimeters is probably like 2 of the squares long, and 1 square is 2 rows, so it would be only 4 rows, but it's quite long. And think one row takes me like half an hour, at least half an hour. Probably now, where I don't have to stitch down that fast, it's gonna take maybe an hour. I can stop time and we can talk about it in the next podcast. But yes, we'll see. But I think it's still really pretty, and I already bought all the yarn. It's a lot of yarn. It's like over 40 skeins of this yarn because it's 2 strands, so it goes by faster. I started it with just 1 strand, but I don't know. It was too much. It was too much. Maybe it looks prettier, but yes, I don't know. It's 2 strands is better. I knitted with a 4mm hook, so it also takes time. But I think before it was with a 3mm hook. Just let me tell you, it took me forever to just do like a couple of rows, of course. So we'll see. But I hope in the future this will be finished because it's really pretty, I think. So yes. That's it with the challenge part. I want to speed up this part a bit, or this video, because I think I already recorded a lot, just because I talked in the beginning. I talked a lot about how I learned knitting and my progress and things like that. So now we're going to talk about my acquisitions. Yes, as I told you, let's start with the sock yarn. I already started knitting the sock, and I think I don't, it's just not I think, I will finish the sock after I'm finished recording this video. But yes, I'm knitting the sock in this yarn. Oh, come on. I feel like the beauty YouTube. Is it focused? I think. It's the La Mana Merida. I don't know if it's German or French or English, maybe even. It's in German, French, and I think it's French and English. But it's 50% wool, 25% silk, and 25% polyamide. Yes, the reason I choose this yarn, it's quite expensive. I just wanted to try it, but it's because it has a silk content, and I don't like the woolly socks. Yes, I have some of them, but they're just too warm. I'm more of a, I guess, summer sock girl. I don't know if you can call it that, but yes, that's why I choose the yarn with the silk content. It's quite expensive, but I'm looking forward to buy it when it's somewhere on sale. So if you find a place where this yarn is on sale, please DM me on Instagram and tell me. So yes, I bought a yarn for the first 3 socks. So I bought the yarn in the bright red, it's the color 33. Then I bought the yarn in a darker red. Here it looks like more of a purple, but it's a dark red. I would say it's a really dark red. It's more, it goes into purple, maybe a purple red. It's like a burgundy, I would say, a dark burgundy, and it's in the color 16. And the third color I bought is this really beautiful sage green. I think this green will look really good with the Avena socks, the second pattern I showed you, and it's in the color 64. So I think I'm going to use this yarn second for my socks. But yes, it's really soft, and it's so nice to knit with it. I didn't do a gauge swatch. Maybe you can tell me if you need a gauge swatch for socks. I think it's just, I don't know, pointless, because with socks you always just use a fingering yarn, or at least I do. For the most of the socks in this book I had a fingering yarn, and you use the 2.5mm, and it looks fine. I always just knit a couple rounds. With socks it's not that many stitches, so it's not that big of a problem if you have to go back. But yes, I just knit a couple of rounds, and then I just look if the fabric is dense enough for me. And then I don't really knit according to pattern. I just use, of course, the pattern for the toe and the heel and the stitch pattern, but I just do my own sizing. So I just yeah, looked how big my foot is, and then I will just knit to a certain size. But yes, this is the yarn I bought from my 52 weeks of sock challenge. Of course, there will be more yarn. I don't know if I'm just gonna use this yarn or a different yarn. Maybe you can give me some suggestions for more of a summery yarn, and just not yarn with 100% wool. Maybe some cotton or some linen. I don't know if there's yarn with linen. I think it would be nice, or just some other yarn where that had a silk content. So yes, and the other thing I bought is for the test knit I mentioned earlier, the Edgar Cardigan. It's the merino from Knitting for Olive. It's soft silk mohair in the color pomegranate, and it's out of 70% mohair and 30% silk, and it's really soft. But however, I tried in a yarn store the thin silk mohair from Sadness Garn, and I think it's even softer. I've never knitted with it, so I don't know. Maybe it's just how it feels, but maybe someone can tell me. Yes, but it also feels really good. But for now, I have the Knitting for Olive mohair, and it's kind of a big dream come true for me to knit with this yarn. So yes, I don't know. Maybe some of you will understand. It's really pretty, nice yarn, and everyone kind of talks about it, so I wanted to try it. Next on my list, of course, is the Sadness Garn and Frigolana, maybe. But yes, some of these brands. And this is the heavy merino, and it's just 100% merino. So yes, as I said, it doesn't feel quite nice, at least in the skein. At least not in this ball of yarn or shape. I don't know if it's a skein or a ball, but in the shape. But when you blocked it or washed it, it's blooms, and it's really soft, so it's okay. But I don't think I will knit with the heavy merino again. It's just because I just knit with fingering or lace or sport, but not with DK or Aran, or even worsted. It's just not my cup of tea. Of course, it's okay for everyone else to knit with these yarns. It's just not for me. I'm more of a smaller needle and lighter yarn knitter. And one thing I wanted to say, of course, I don't want to brag with this yarn. It cost me a lot of money. I saved up a lot of money. I did some extra shifts when I still had a job to just be able to buy this yarn. But yes, of course, I'm really pretty, and I'm going to talk about it on here. But of course, if you have a problem with it, you can skip my acquisitions part, or I don't know, not watch the videos, I guess. But yes, I will keep talking about pricier yarn and pricier maybe needles in the future. So yes, if that bothers you, maybe just skip this part. But yes, that is it with my acquisitions. And now I want to talk about my, I guess, future knitting plans. I teased it a lot. I want to knit more summer garments. So my plan is, as I said, I have a lot of yarn in my stash of summer yarn and cotton. Yeah. And my plan is to find one project for every skein or color I have in my stash. So I already started a lot of swatching in the last week. So I have some cotton, I have some merino too, but I think it's not bad to have a top that's in merino. And yes, I have the bamboo yarn and some different yarns. But I think I will do a separate video where I will just talk about the pattern and show you my swatch and the yarn I want to use, talk a bit about the yarn and the pattern. And yes, of course, I think these are like 8 swatches or 9 different projects. Of course, I won't be able to finish all these projects in this year. It's just I want to have something for everything in my stash. I hate having yarn in my stash that I don't really have a use for. I need to, I don't know, every yarn has, at least with me, has to have a project. so that if I want to knit something new, I just look in my stash, find the yarn I want to knit with, the color, the feel, whatever, and I will look in my little notebook and see what garment I can knit with this yarn, so I can decide. That's just how I want it to be. Of course, if that's not you, it's okay. So yeah, and that's it with this knitting podcast for now. If you liked it, I hope you understood my English. I hope I didn't talk too fast or too slow. I don't know. Of course, you can leave a comment down below. I would be really grateful if you can just shortly tell me if it's okay. Of course, my English is not the best. I hope you can understand it. It's just I'm speaking German, and yeah, so it's not my first language or my mother tongue. So I hope you can bear with me, and we'll see if my English improves in the course of the next podcast. So if you like this video, I would love for you to follow me on Instagram. I try to post there now more often, so at least a couple of pictures a day, or in my story, maybe not in my feed, but in my story, to just take you with me around my day and where I knit, when I knit, what I knit, and things like that. And maybe leave a comment. And of course, if you like that podcast or this podcast, you can follow me on YouTube so that you don't miss my next podcast or when I upload my next podcast. So I wish you a really, really nice, wonderful rest of the day or a good night whenever you're watching this video.